So the first we have the surprising rebirth in belief in God. This is a docu-series which details the changes in cultural attitudes towards Christianity. If there was one word that I could use to describe this series, it would be quality. Everything about this show, from the narration to the music to the storytelling, has so much effort put into it that it's a genuine treat to listen to. And every episode is a little different. Some focus on the rise and fall of the new atheist movement. Others focus on apologetics and the concrete reasons to believe in Christianity. And others document the strange and interesting ways that God is moving in different parts of the world. And that's the best thing about the podcast, the stories. The host Justin Briley brings on amazing guests to tell their stories of how they encountered God and the things that he did in their lives. From hardened atheist scientists to a bunch of college campus students, there's always an interesting story in each episode. I would say this podcast has it all: apologetics, good storytelling, good biblical insights, and a lot of wholesome stories. I can't recommend this show enough. Even if you're not a believer, I would still recommend this show. And if you like the show, be sure to buy the book that it's based on. Also, I heard season 2 just got released, so go listen to it now. By the way, welcome to Hevel. This is my page for art, theology, and apologetics. So if that interests you, be sure to give me a follow. Also, I have an Etsy page for my art. So if you want to help me out, just by clicking the link, you'll be doing me a massive favor. You don't even need to buy anything. Now, if you're like me and you like longer podcasts, you might enjoy this one. It's called Pints with Aquinas with Matt Fradd. The reason why I really like this podcast is because of the depth of conversation on a range of different topics. These topics can include marriage, gospel teaching, apologetics, sexual ethics, denominational differences, and so much more. I would say that this podcast really excels at exploring well-known topics with great theological insight, and that's because of the amazing guests that Matt Fradd brings on. He brings on theologians, biblical scholars, monks, and so many amazing people. What helps is that the host, Matt Fradd, isn't some biblical scholar or some classy theologian. He's just a regular lover of Christ. So whenever a topic gets quite abstract or very complex, Matt is always there to help simplify or ask the questions that everyone is thinking. So if you're looking for a place to start, listen to the John Bergma episodes. Any of them. He is a biblical scholar who is great at answering questions concerning anything to do with the Bible, apologetics, theology, all of the questions that you might have but you don't know who to ask. I think the first episode of Pints with Aquinas was with him, where he answered like 20 questions about different things in the Bible, such as the evidence for Exodus or the reliability of the Gospels, and even questions like, did Jesus claim to be God? But my favorite episode is the one with Jason Evert, where I think it's just the perfect mix of important life lessons, good storytelling, wholesome interactions, and just great biblical insights, especially the ones about the sexual ethics. So go listen to that one as well. Next we have With the Perrys. This podcast is a lot of fun.
And so I say, sir, what happened? You the one who killed my mom in 78, man. And I go, sir, I was born in 1986. I did not kill your mama.
But don't let this distract you from the rich conversations that this couple is having on their sofa. In this podcast, Jackie and Preston Perry talk about pretty much anything, from relationships and theology to politics, culture, and even parenting. What I really like about this podcast is the interesting stories and insights that both Preston and Jackie bring to the podcast. They both have their individual stories, which they retell on the podcast, and I think it makes for really important conversations. Both of them are actually poets and writers in their own right, and I have one of their books here, which is Gay Girl, Good God by Jackie Perry, and it just talks about her life from her upbringing to where she's at now and how she met Preston and I guess everything in between. I'll say it's a really beautiful and heartfelt book that talks about her story, and I think it gives you a greater appreciation for the things that people struggle with in life. But yeah, this podcast is really good. And the one episode that I would recommend, I'm kind of cheating here because it's actually a 2-part episode. It's How to Give the Gospel parts 1 and 2. I think this episode is really important because it really speaks about how we should go about evangelizing. Not only knowing the gospel, but knowing how to serve it to the people right in front of you, because everyone has their own story, because we need to speak to their hearts instead of just seeing them as arguments to be knocked down. This episode was really formative for me. I think all Christians need to watch this. And whether you see yourself as an evangelist or not, there's definitely going to be times where you're going to have to share the gospel with someone near you. So it's always important to learn how to do it. Alright, so the last podcast that we have today is Word on Fire with Bishop Robert Barron. Most episodes are between 20 to 30 minutes long, and they cover a range of different topics. With nearly 500 episodes, any questions that you could have concerning the Bible, theology, and the Christian life has probably been answered in length by the bishop. I think this podcast is really good for those who want to know more about the Christian faith. Bishop Barron is an excellent teacher, and the conversations that he has with his co-hosts are always cheerful and good-spirited. For recommendations, I'll say first scroll through the episode list and see what calls out to you. There's probably a question that you've had that Bishop Barron has answered. I think one of the most interesting episodes for me was Mimetic Desire. I can't remember the exact title, but I'll probably put it on screen. This one was really good, so give it a listen. And also one on the 7 works of mercy. That one was also very useful for me. But that's all for now. I do have a few more podcast recommendations, but I'll probably save that for another video. By the way, all the podcasts and a few of my recommendations will be linked in the description below. And by the way, I do make art and some other videos, so be sure to check out my Etsy and my Instagram page just to see some of the other things that I do. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.